This video is a follow-up to a video I made last year when I tried to make pigment from flower petals, and that video got a bit popular, which, thank you by the way, that was exciting. I took what I learned then and tried to refine my recipe and made a few experiments. Making pigment from plants is an ongoing project for me, so this is not the last word, but I believe an improvement on last year. We start with rose petals, around 2 handful, and add around 300 ml of water. To that, I'm adding a teaspoon of citric acid. You can find citric acid in the supermarket since it's used in jam making. I use it to bring out the color in the flowers I'm using. Stick it on the hob on medium heat for around 20 minutes. After it comes to a boil, I remove the lid to allow the water to evaporate a little. I'm trying 2 different recipes so I can compare them. But the second version starts the same. 2 handful of rose petals, a teaspoon of citric acid, water, and 20 minutes on the hob. This is alum, a mineral that has been used since medieval times in fabric dyeing. The color so far is looking pretty good. Now we just need to fix it in place. For this, I'm using 2 teaspoons of alum and another couple of minutes on the hob. I bought mine off Amazon, but your local pharmacy might have it or be able to order it for you. As I said earlier, I'm comparing 2 recipes. The first one uses gum arabic for bulk. Use a fine mesh sieve to remove the spent petals. Then stir in the gum arabic. The more bulk I use, the more product I will end up with, but stretching it too much will affect the color and make it less intense. I'm using 3 teaspoons, but use your best judgment should you decide to try your hand at making your own pigment. And here you see me sneaking the alum into the second lot of rose pigment. Every variety of flower will give different color and different intensity of color. A good test for choosing flowers to use for making pigment is to squeeze the petals between your thumb and forefinger. If the flower stains your fingers, it'll probably be well suited for this. For the second recipe, I'm using silica for bulk. If you remember last year's video, that's what I used then, so hopefully it'll turn out a little better, since I had no idea what I was doing then. Not that I really do now, but yeah. I'm shaking the jars just to make sure the bulk is dissolved and well mixed in. Now to dry the pigment, to make it easier to store and use. Of course, there are quicker ways to dry pigment out. For example, you could put them in the oven at a low setting for a few hours. But I'm waiting for natural evaporation because, frankly, it's July and way too hot to have the oven on for a few hours. But if you're more heat tolerant than myself, by all means use the oven, it'll save a lot of time. Now for a quick recap. Citric acid for better color, alum as a fixative, and either gum arabic or silica for bulk. Checking in a few weeks later, the pigment with gum arabic has evaporated down a bunch and I'm kind of running out of patience, so I'm transferring it on a silicone mat for more surface area. The jar with silica still has ways to go, so I'm going to wait a little more. I dripped some gum arabic pigment extra, it should be ready tomorrow. So let's try it out. The color is not extremely intense, but it layers really well. On the second flower, I'm trying out how it flows, and it doesn't really, or at least not super well. But I'm really happy with the result. I'm thinking gum arabic is the way to go. To find out if the first jar of pigment was just a fluke or if it's actually a good recipe, I'm making a second batch of pigment. This time from berries. I'm using Oregon grapes that grow on Mahonias, a popular garden shrub around here. Just picking a handful of berries, my fingers kind of look like I committed murder, which bodes well for the pigment. And I'm going to try and make the pigment without alum this time, just to try it out and see if it works. So, berries, water, citric acid. Apply heat. Strain. Add gum arabic. Another change I made this go around was to add the gum arabic and then return it to the stove to see if that makes any difference. It didn't. Pigment in the jar and off to the oven. Again, I spilled a little to let it dry quickly so I can try it out for you. I love this color, I'm so happy. I noticed it makes a huge difference if you give the water a little time to dissolve the pigment. That's most of the difference between the first and second swatch. Now, to dry the flow, and it's a lot better than the rose pigment. They are both gum arabic pigments, so why one flows and the other one doesn't? Frankly, I don't know. Hopefully, once I get more experience with this recipe, I'll find out and I'll let you know. And though it's not quite ready, let me try the silica pigment as well. That's much better than last year's. Nice. Oh, remember the roses I painted earlier? On my last video, I was asked if the pigment is light fast, so I thought I'd try that one out. I covered half the roses with post-its and left them sitting by the window. They've been sitting in the light for 10 days so far. And it's looking pretty good, I'm not seeing any difference. Of course, 10 days is not a long time, but so far so good. I'll put the post-it back and check in occasionally over the coming months. I'll put those updates on my Instagram. With the third flower, I'll test the berry pigment. I'll put those updates on my Instagram. That's it from me today. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, why not subscribe?